If you're single, I think the dating life in Malaysia is hard.
Is it?
Yeah, dating in Malaysia is difficult.
Meet Synne. She's from Norway and has been living in Kuala Lumpur for 6 years. She candidly shared with me her insights on being a vegetarian in Malaysia, the local fascination with snapping selfies with foreigners, and why dating in KL has become so challenging now. I'm Max, entrepreneur and YouTuber from Singapore. Let's go. What's your favorite Malaysian food?
I'm vegetarian. Probably everyone's gonna say that I'm not eating the proper version, and I'm probably not, but that's just how it goes. So nasi lemak, which is the national dish, is one of my favorites. They have some vegan versions of that or vegetarian versions of that, and it's amazing.
So they change what? They change the egg?
No, the egg I'll eat, but they change often it comes with like a rendang or a sambal, and the sambal has fish in it, and it comes with anchovies, so they can make some different version of that. If they have some rendang with it, it's even better. They can make it like tempeh or tofu or whatever. So good, one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah.
Then I think Maggi goreng, classic but nice. That was probably my second favorite order. I think my last one would be cheese naan. When you go to like a nasi kadar and you get like a really nice cheese naan and different type of sauces.
How was your attitudes about Malaysia changed since you just came here first till now?
I think I used to not be able to figure out exactly what the rules were, because there kind of are rules, but there's also some rules that doesn't really apply. Let's say traffic, you can park anywhere, you get a ticket, and then it just seems like no one is paying their parking tickets here, that you go and renew your license once a year, and then you may or may not be slapped with a ticket. Very different than in Norway, and it took me very long to realize and understand just which rules applies and which one doesn't.
So it's like more flexible in general.
Yeah, but some things are, but then during COVID, I was really impressed with Malaysians and kind of how strict or how serious they took the regulations and the rules, and what you normally see with traffic and parking your car a little bit everywhere was definitely not the same during COVID. So there's sometimes the rules are strict and sometimes there's more flexibility. It takes some time to figure out what that is.
Can you give some examples, like for the foreigner who is coming to Malaysia, trying to figure out how things work here, what he or she should do, and like the big no-nos, let's say, here?
I don't think tipping is a big thing here, giving tips, so you don't really have to. It's not a big no, but I have tried to give tips sometimes and they just give it back to me, which is interesting, especially at like small stalls. I think other no-nos, don't drink the water. You actually can drink the water, you just have to get used to it.
Do you feel like some things are super different? Something that you used to being in Europe, which is completely different?
One thing that I always find, or I still find really strange, is that sometimes strangers come up and ask me for photos. And I'm just not used to it. Yeah, still, I'm walking around and people ask me to take a photo with me, strangers, and I don't really know what they do with these photos. If they just kind of have them on their phone, or I'm not really sure. I try to say yes, but there's sometimes if I'm coming like from a run and I'm all sweaty and someone stops me and say like, hey, can we take a photo? I don't think that happens much in European culture. I think you have photos of your friends and family more than kind of strange women on the street. So I think that's one big thing that's pretty different. Other things that is different is more or less the lifestyle. Like the lifestyle here, it's very different than what it is back home. The things I do here and the way I spend my money, the way I can live. Like I have an apartment with a pool and a gym, which is not something I would ever have in Norway. First of all, because of the weather, and second of all, just because of what it would cost and how properties are structured.
Do you miss cold weather? At all?
No, never.
No?
As a Russian, I'm sure you can relate.
No.
I never miss it. I just want this all year long. And it's a very unpopular Asian or Malaysian opinion. Everyone wants aircon, but I just want to sit outside, enjoy the weather.
It's same for me. Like people say, oh, you're Russian, you probably don't get
should
cold.
enjoy the cold, right?
No, I freaking get cold, like easier than other people.
Yeah,
I
there's
hate
a reason
cold.
why you left and the reason why I left. Yeah. Weather is one part of it.
Hey guys, sometimes it's time to support your favorite YouTuber. This is the right moment to subscribe to this channel and like this video. Thank you.
In terms of how people express themselves, is it the thing in Norway people are more like reserved a little bit or maybe more calm? If I go to some northern part of Russia, people will be like, they're surviving there. Because of the weather, actually.
Yeah.
And people in Malaysia, they are like super open and relaxed. Do you feel this difference, or it's more like a stereotypical thing?
But I think this actually depends a little bit. This is again stereotyping a little bit, depending on the different ethnicity and also how and where people are. So I think if you see groups together, there's a lot of people are loud and talking and eating. There's a lot of food everywhere. I think when you meet maybe people one-on-one, they're actually quite shy. I think in Norway the culture is more direct, so I would more easily kind of speak and say something what's on my mind and have a conversation about it. I think in Asian culture it's a bit more indirect, where maybe it's harder to have difficult conversations and people tend to kind of scoot away between different things, and it's a lot of smiles and giggles, but maybe not always so direct.
Are there any things that you still not get used to living in Malaysia?
Yeah, so first of all, everyone mistakes the word improve for improvise. I don't know if that's
really?
the same in Singapore, but it drives me crazy. That and the fact that people chew with their mouths open. I also still cannot get used to that. People are chewing with their mouth open, and it's like, I think it's like people are enjoying the food, but I cannot get used to it. It is such a no-no in Norway. I've been told since I was a kid, like, close your mouth when you chew. So I think those are maybe two things, and then durian. I will never get used to it. I've tried so many times. Do you like it?
I tried a couple of times.
So that's a no then.
I'm kind of okay. It's not as bad as I thought, but I'm not a big lover. What would you advise to someone who is thinking to move to Malaysia?
Depending on where you are in your life, there's a little bit of different advice to give. I think if you have a family, I think it's an amazing place because you have help and you have options and there's good schools and all that. I think if you're single, I think the dating life in Malaysia is hard.
Is it?
Yeah, dating in Malaysia is difficult. I'm not really sure why, but it just seems like the circle is getting smaller and smaller. The options are getting more and more limited. There's great people and great experiences to have. Make sure that you have time to travel so that you get to see both Malaysia and also other parts of Asia. Travel as much as you can and make sure that you have a job or a lifestyle where that's possible, even if it's just a long weekend. There's so much to see around here and so easy to travel.
What are your favorite places to go? Like, let's say if you go traveling in Malaysia?
In Malaysia?
Yeah, where would you go?
My favorite is an island called Kapas Island. It's a small island in Terengganu, but it's a smaller one, not as famous as Redang and Perhentian, but it's closer and it's just 15 minutes. There's actually a Dutch guy that has started a small little chalet there together with his German girlfriend, and their place is really nice and it's just such a nice vibe and place to go. So maybe a bit of a hidden tips for those who are just arriving. Besides that, Penang is really nice. I think a lot of people have heard about it. Penang and Georgetown. There's street art. There's food, like UNESCO heritage site, so also really nice and great place to spend time. So those are probably my top two.
Do you think Langkawi is overrated?
No, I think Langkawi is underrated.
Underrated?
I think Langkawi is underrated. I've had so many good trips to Langkawi, but you have to know a little bit what to do, and if you're expecting something very fancy, you can get that, but it's a small island. There's people living there. It's not necessarily just tourists, but I think it's beautiful. Like, there's a lot of different places to go. There's a lot of activities. It was very affordable during the pandemic, so it was amazing to go. It was also the only place we could go because it was a travel bubble, so you could go to Langkawi. Alcohol is cheap because it's tax-free. If you go to the right places of the beach, you can find decent beaches. So I think actually Langkawi is underrated.
Can you call any like crazy stories that happened to you here living in Malaysia?
I guess the fact that I take a Grab to work every day feels like something that I talk to people back home. The fact that you just kind of take a taxi everywhere, that's very exotic when you first arrive, or different when you first arrive.
Because in Oslo, I guess people like they use public transport.
It's very expensive
as well.
Yeah, and you use public transport or you bike or something like this. But here I try to do public transport a bit more because there's some new lines that are really nice, and also it's more sustainable. So I try to switch over, but going very mediocre. Not very successful, I would say.
Can you share a bit about the cost of living for you, like in KL?
I share a rent together with my housemates, so we split the rent, and the rent is about 3,600 ringgits.
You stay central?
Very central.
It's for two?
Two people.
For two people. And is it like two-bedroom?
Two bedroom, it's like 2,000 square feet, big balcony, nice condo. We have a pool, a gym, a sky gym. So it's a nice apartment. Yeah. Besides that, in terms of your living costs, like that obviously depends on how lush you want to live. If you want to travel a bit, you can get food as low as 10 ringgits per meal, maybe even less if you're really skimping, depending on where you're eating. But you can also pay as much as 200-300 per meal, depending on if you're drinking alcohol. Alcohol is pretty expensive here. A beer is about between 15 to 30 ringgits, depending on where you buy it. So depending on how you live your life, then you can spend a couple of thousands per week, or you can spend a couple of hundreds. So there's really big differences depending on how you choose to budget.
How much you spend, let's say, per month?
Including rent, but without traveling. Maybe like 5,000, 6,000.
ringgit, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you miss from Norway?
Not anymore. There's this kind of saying that when you stop asking people to bring you stuff from your home country, then you know that you've really moved out. And I think my last time I asked to bring something is now at least a year ago. So there's not much that I miss. There used to be maybe some food items or certain things, but there's not really much in that sense. Of course, I miss my family. I think every expat does. I miss that, and I'm kind of sad to see how my family is like getting old or growing up without me. But there's always a trade-off.
What's your plan? Like, are you going to stay in Malaysia or discover some other countries here in the region, or maybe going back to Norway?
I'm not going back to Norway. I think the weather is holding me off. I'm gonna stay in Malaysia for now. But I always say that maybe a year, maybe 2 years, and then somehow it ends up being more. So let's see how things evolve. I'm not adverse against leaving Malaysia, but right now I'm happy. I have my life here. I have my friends here. I have my work here. So for now, I'm here.
YouTube thinks this is the best video for you. If it's bad, it's not my fault. Blame YouTube, so go check it out.